Well, I finally got around to checking out Leigh Whannell's newest film, Wolfman, so now it's time to rank his filmography. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the movie ranker, and today I'm ranking all 4 films directed by Leigh Whannell. Always loved Leigh Whannell's work. He was the co-creator of Saw with James Wan. He even played Adam in the first film. He's produced a ton of horror movies, and now he has directed 4 movies on his own. So this should be an interesting ranking. Like always, drop your rankings down in the comment section. What's your favorite movie of his? What's your least favorite movie of his? We'll make for a great discussion. Like the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future rankings. And without wasting any more time, let's rank them. So kicking things off in last place at number 4, I had to go with Wolfman, Leigh Whannell's newest movie. Not as bad as what some people's making it out to be, but not real great either. It's somewhere in the middle. It's kind of a mixed bag for me. It definitely has flaws, but I think it's still worth a watch, especially if you're into these werewolf type flicks. For starters, I think the movie is really well directed. It's competently made. The cinematography is pretty nice. The setup of the story is real good, getting us to our location, to this cabin in the woods where, the big attack happens. The movie set up real good. But once we hit that middle mark, I feel like the pacing just falls apart. The movie just barely inches to the finale. I think the biggest problem is that the story, it plays it way too safe once we get into the action. You can kind of predict where the story's going to go. There's a reveal that wasn't all that surprising to me. I kind of figured that out on my own on who this werewolf is in the woods that's attacking them. And basically the second half of this movie is this family, mother, father, and daughter. They're in this cabin, they're getting attacked, terrorized by this wolf man outside, while the father is slowly becoming the wolf man himself because he got attacked and infected as well. So the second half of this movie is basically just waiting for the end to happen. It's just the father slowly turning into this creature, and he's fighting it off for as long as he can to protect his family. But eventually, the human side of him goes away, and he becomes the villain, this creature. But on a positive note, I think the look of the creature is pretty good. A lot of people were complaining about that. I find it's reminiscent to the original Wolfman from like the classic film, but updated, more modern, better effects, of course, but it doesn't look like your modern werewolves. And I think that's what a lot of people hated about this when it comes to the look. I didn't mind that. I thought the look was pretty cool in here. I think the effects are really great. It gets bloody at times. It gets pretty gory, and all those moments look really good. And the movie deals with these themes of being a parent and trying to protect your kids at all costs. Of course, it's a good thing, but sometimes being overprotective can push your kids away from you and make them resent you. And every time they think of you, they're always thinking of these like survival mode and fear. So you have to find that balance. But of course, once shit hits the fan, you definitely need to be there, even willing to sacrifice yourself for your kids. And there's moments like that in this film. Even when the father's changing, there's enough of him left that's, fighting off this other wolf man and, trying his best not to attack his family until the time comes where he can no longer control it. And I thought it was really cool to see the Wolfman's view of things, his perspective. Like, he has a different vision. Like, when it shows his vision, he can't make out humans when they're talking. This sounds like they're mumbling and talking in gibberish when really they're talking in English. And it's kind of the same way for the humans. They can't make him out either. And I thought that was really cool. Something we don't see too often in these werewolf type flicks. At the end of the day, I just felt like the story felt really thin in the second half. Predictable, thin, and kind of played it safe. It didn't have any big twists or turns that caught me off guard or anything, and the ending was just like exactly how I predicted it would be. So I think that's where the movie fails in the second half. The setup's great, the effects are great, the directing's great. It's just a story that would have needed a few more rewrites, I feel. Coming up next at number 3, I'm going with Insidious Chapter 3. Now, you know me, I'm not a big fan of supernatural flicks, but I think the first 3 Insidious movies are quite good. I do really enjoy them. I just like this world, with the further and these demons and entities and that try to cross over and deal with the real world. I think it's just really interesting to me. And this one follows Quinn, this young girl who lost her mother, and she's trying to contact her mother, but she accidentally ends up contacting this other entity. And this entity, he's really interesting. He wears like this breathing apparatus and everything, like this old man, it seems like. And most of the time in these flicks, the ghosts or the entities want to come into the real world, but he's different. He wants to break people down and bring them to his world so he can treat them like his pet and like torture them and whatnot. That is different from the rest of these entries, and that's what I like about it. And there's a section in the movie where Quinn goes into a coma, the main lead, and he only gets half of her soul before she wakes up. So he wants the other half. And all that's really cool. And the half soul thing leaves her with like no mouth or eyes or anything in the further. So there's like 2 versions of her now. Super interesting stuff here. And I also love Lynn Shay in here. We get to learn more on her background, about her late husband, about how she didn't want to be in the business anymore, but this movie got her back into it. And of course, her badass fight that she has when she's in the further with the Blackened Bride. I was real surprised to see that character in this entry, as we dealt with them in the first 2 entries. But this being a prequel, they were able to bring that character back in a really cool way. As well as Specs and Tucker. They're in this movie, and it shows how they met up with Lynn Shay's character Elise and how they formed their crew and everything. All that stuff was stuff that I was really invested in and interested in, and I just didn't expect it in the 3rd entry here, being a prequel and all. And there is one really badass jump scare. I mean, I usually hate jump scares when they're done wrong, but there's one in here that's really good, and it's when Quinn gets hit by the car. She's looking down the street, so you don't expect it, and it's really out of nowhere. It gets you every time. The rest of the jump scares in this flick are kind of cheap. They kind of feel a bit generic and, not scary, just startling, which is why I hate most jump scares, unless they're done right? And this movie does have one really good one. The rest, they're not that great. And this movie also has a lot of the tropes that come with this genre, not just the jump scares, but everything else that comes with it, like some plot holes involving the entity himself and how he's able to manipulate the real world and come in and out. Not a lot of that is really explained in the Insidious franchise. But all in all, like I said, I do enjoy this for a supernatural flick because it's not my genre, but this is one of the better ones. I think the first 3 Insidious and the first 2 Conjuring are like the movies that I feel like are better than the average supernatural flick. Coming up next at number 2, I'm going with The Invisible Man. Now, wow, this movie blew the socks off me when it came out back in 2020, I believe it was. I'm a fan of the original Invisible Man. I'm a fan of like Hollow Man, another kind of take on this IP. But yeah, didn't know what to expect with this new reboot, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoy how it's much different than the other films. It's a reboot, but it doesn't necessarily follow the same rules. Of course, this isn't about a scientist who literally turned himself invisible. This is about a guy who has a suit, a tech suit that allows you to be invisible. And I love that the story focuses on this woman who's in an abusive relationship where the guy is very controlling and, won't let her leave, wants her to get pregnant and all this stuff. And she makes a plan to escape him, get away from him, which works. It works out. But then she learns that he ended up dying. But we learn to find out throughout the film that he's not really dead. And she starts to feel like someone's watching her when there's no one around. And of course, it's him. And we get so many cool scenes with her like in the kitchen looking around, and you're just never sure if he's really there or not. But yeah, when there's action, it's great. Like him hauling her around by the leg and stuff. It's filmed so well. And it's something that, of course, the original Invisible Man was ahead of its time with the tech and that back in the 30s, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Might have been 40s. But yeah, this movie, it's also filmed really, really gorgeously. It looks great. And the action is just so cool to me. And you're just really rooting for our main lead, Cecilia, played by Elizabeth Moss, and she deserved an Oscar for this. She does such a good job at playing this sympathetic, character that's pretty much going crazy from what's going on with her, and her being stalked by her late boyfriend and everything. And you really fall in love with her character and really are rooting for her to win, even though everybody else is against her, because obviously it makes her seem like she's crazy when she starts saying, "There's an invisible guy screwing with me." It always looks like she's the one causing the problem. So you're really invested with her character, and you're really rooting for her to win this one. Like I said, there's so many cool scenes in here. One where she gets put in a mental asylum, and he comes in, and they have this big scuffle, and there's this big breakout scene, and the Invisible Man is just taking out so many security guards and cops and whatnot in a really cool way. That's when the movie really turns into like an action type flick instead of like a horror movie, and the action is just so fun to watch. And lastly, I think that the whole twist at the end where she leaves, gets the suit that she hid earlier in the movie and comes back to take him out, is so satisfying is the best way to say it. I freaking love that ending, and I'm interested to see where they're going to take this in the future, if they're going to continue it, because the way it ended with her having the suit and getting away with everything, it could make for an interesting sequel, let me tell you that. But yeah, this is just the best movie, I think, of 2020 when it came out at the time, especially, during pandemic times. This was definitely a movie that stood out, and it continues to surprise me every time I rewatch it. I'm like, damn, this is just so good. But for me, coming in first place, I have to go with the movie Upgrade. What a freaking thrilling ride this movie is. It does a great job of mixing action and sci-fi and thriller, a little bit of horror in there as well. It just blends these genres so well, and those seems to be the movies that really speak to me. Like, that's my type of movies, when they're able to blend all these genres seamlessly, and it turns out to be a great film at the end of the day. That's Upgrade. And the quick story about Upgrade is this guy gets in an accident with his wife, girlfriend, whatever. She ends up dying. These people come out and attack them after their accident, kills the wife, and paralyzes him, this guy named Gray. And Gray's a really interesting character because he's very old school, and this world is very like new tech. Like, their car drives itself, their whole house is like run by AI. It's very much a new age world that they're living in. But he is old school. He's a mechanic and works on his muscle cars and that, and he doesn't believe in all this new tech and crap. But once he gets paralyzed, he gets offered a chance to be able to walk again and whatnot by implanting this chip into his brain called STEM. And STEM is an AI of its own, and it allows him to use his limbs again and everything whatnot. So gives him a new lease on life. And what he does is he uses this chip, his ability to be able to move and not be quadriplegic again, to take out the people who did him wrong, who killed his wife. He wants to take out that whole crew, right? And we're watching him on this journey throughout this film, finding all the people responsible and taking them out one by one, solving the mystery of what's going on, why did this happen to him and everything. And let me tell you, the storytelling is really engaging and thrilling in here from start to finish, all the way up to the final act where we get this big reveal about STEM, the chip that's in his brain, and who's the big villain really behind everything. And I just think it's just so damn good. It's a twist you don't see coming. It's very sci-fi like, and I'm like, hell yeah, you got me. That was great. And see, I don't want to get into too much about that ending and that spoiler. Just in case you haven't seen the film, go watch it yourself. But yeah, I love the story from start to finish. I love how this really shows how AI can be a good thing, but also dangerous at the same time. And, this is happening in today's world. So the storyline in this is pretty relevant to today, right? And even the people he's after are kind of like cyborgs. They're from the military and they have augmented body parts, basically. Like, dude's arm is really like a shotgun, it's a gun built inside and stuff like that. So these people have been upgraded, given the title of this movie, which, makes his fight against them that much harder, right? But when Gray does take out his enemies, whew, it's brutal, man. A lot of times he lets STEM take over and do the fighting, and it's gory. Like, I mean, for this, like I said, it's not really a horror movie, it's more of a sci-fi thriller. But when we get into the action scenes, it's bloody, it's intense, and they don't hold back with the practical effects. Like, people getting their throats slashed and their whole face slashed up and bones broken, and you name it, this movie goes there. And when we do get fighting scenes and that, the choreography is so well done. The way the camera tracks the shots and that tracks the fighting, it's really easy to make out what's going on. It's not quick cuts or anything like that. So the action is superb. The characters are great. You got this detective following Gray the whole time, trying to figure out what's going on, and she starts to catch him walking around when he didn't tell anybody that he got this chip. It's all a secret, right? So everybody believes he's still a quadriplegic. So he's not getting caught with all these crimes and that. But there's a detective on his trail, and she's slowly picking up the pieces. So the whole mystery throughout is interesting. Great ass story, great effects, great action scenes, great characters. So this movie is superb in every way. It's pretty much perfect, if you ask me. Even the score is great to this film, the musical score, the cinematography, everything. And I think it has a great message and, themes surrounding AI and new age tech, right? So for me, Upgrade easily comes in the first place in this ranking. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all 4 Leigh Whannell directed movies. Hope you enjoyed it. Even though The Wolfman was kind of a mixed bag for me, I'm still excited to see what else Leigh Whannell can do in the future. Make sure you drop your rankings of his 4 films down in the comment section. What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? We'll have a great discussion. Interested to see if anybody has one of the lower movies here at the top. That'd be really cool to see. You can also follow me on Letterboxd and Instagram. Links to those are always in the description of my videos, guys. And that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day, and until next time, thanks for watching.